Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Stees! On the My Channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. Activity statue, think, inflate, dropping unrealistic bags. 2K takes for the kick. Even though cats like that get views closer to the millie, never hear me preach, slip on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals that feel the day. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, so that means it is 3-Point Blitz time. We're here at episode 51. It's been pretty much at this point a little over a year since we started this bad boy because remember we took 2 weeks off over the year, so last week would have really been 52 weeks. But here we are, over a year later, we're at episode 51, still doing this on the Hardcore Sports Network and Nicky Stees channel, and we're still going strong. Still Mitch and a lot of other guys such as Grego, Arku. A lot of you guys love the 3-Point Blitz, and that's why we keep this bad boy going. So with that being said, we got Jason in the chat. Hello. Welcome to the 3-Point Blitz. And per usual, we're going to kick this thing off like we always do with the rant of the week, get some of the negativity out the way. So let's just get it out the way. The Kobe versus Bam fan debate. Now, as we all know by now, last week we saw a historic feat accomplished. Bam Adebayo got the second most points ever scored in an NBA game when he scored 83 for the Miami Heat against the Washington Wizards. Now, this has sparked a lot of discussion between the two fan bases because he passed Kobe Bryant's 81 back in January 06. And we've seen different YouTube channels or websites talking about it, trying to make this about Kobe versus Bam, which to me is just the most disrespectful thing you could do. Instead of just giving Bam Adebayo credit, because I don't care who you were playing. I don't care if you were playing the Washington Generals. 83 points is impressive in a single game, no matter the circumstances. All right. So instead of acknowledging that, hey, easy game or not, 83 points in a single game is impressive. So credit to Bam Adebayo for doing it. But instead, some people want to turn this into a competition between whose was more impressive. Was it Kobe or Bam that was more impressive? And trying to make it a competition. Or then you got this one embarrassing article. I really don't want to give it credit, but I gotta do. But this is going to prove my point right here about some of the stupidity of this discussion. This comes from Clutch Point, who, let's be honest, I could rant about them too, but I don't want to say too much. And there is some if you guys just read the top, that's breaking news from the NFL world. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The title is, Should Heat Star Bam Adebayo have subbed himself out to respect Kobe Bryant? Just the title alone is so stupid. To say that trying to break a record and get into history is disrespect, come on, bro. If Kobe would have gotten 101 points instead of 81 in that game, do you think some people would have said the same thing about Kobe should have respected the late Wilt Chamberlain and subbed out? I'm just curious. I mean, we'll never know, but come on. Is this really what it's about? This is a shot at history here. Let's see what the article says. Bam Adebayo's 83-point game has been most divisive event of the season. Just that alone, let's see. On one hand, a good portion of the fan base lauded Adebayo for trying to score as many points as he could. Never mind the Miami Heat faced the lowly Wizards, scoring 83 single game in the toughest professional basketball league to even crack is an unbelievable achievement. Yes, it is. Absolutely. But Bam's historic night has invited a plethora of criticism from accolades of the late Kobe Bryant. Fans of Lakers legend feel as though Bam's legacy was tarnished by Adebayo's shameless pursuit of the 83-point mark, which admittedly was achieved with the help of some late game tomfoolery and some foul shenanigans. Okay, yeah. Okay, there was some fouling shenanigans, yes, and yes, it was the Wizards, but Jesus Christ, just stop, all right? Enough with that. Just sounds, let's be real, a lot of the Kobe fans that are calling it disrespect that Bam passed him on the all-time list for most points scored in a single game is disrespect. Trying to make history for yourself is disrespect. Come on. Newsflash to all the Kobe Bryant, I'll say, Kobe Bryant fanatic snowflakes. Let's face it, Kobe would have respected Bam Adebayo making history. All right? Newsflash, if you put yourself in a player's shoes and you have for 1 second, you're an NBA player, you're having this amazing game, you have the opportunity to achieve a historic feat. Whether you're closing in on 81 or more or closing in on 101 points, you know you have a shot at history. What would you do if you were a player? You know you have a shot at history. If you have this shot to pull a history, to pull off a great achievement that people will talk about for years to come, you're going to take advantage of it. You're going to have plenty of conversation, which could lead to increased jersey sales, possible endorsement deals, which could be more money for your own pocketbook as a player. I mean, put yourself in that situation. Yeah, I'm thinking I would do something similar if I were in that case. And probably you guys listening would do the same thing too. If you had that shot at history to go out there and have an all-time performance, forever put yourself in the history books, you would do it. And it's such a shame that instead of talking about Bam Adebayo having a great historic accomplishment, instead the conversation is about Kobe versus Bam. Whose feat was more impressive? Did Bam disrespect Kobe by passing? In what ways is scoring the most points possible disrespect? Seriously. Come on. I mean, of all the things that someone could do that could be considered disrespectful, passing someone's point total in a single game is what is not classified as disrespect at all. To me, it comes across as butthurt fanboys, let's face it, but her fans who were upset about the fact that Bam Adebayo passed Kobe Bryant with 81. They wanted that record to stay because, they wanted Kobe to be 81 to stand. And I get that. You're a fan of the player. You want that player to have a historic feat. But hey, guess what? Number one, it's still a historic feat. Kobe still, 81 will still be remembered. So it's not taking anything away. So I don't know where. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I understand the moment you're like, oh man, someone passed. I understand if you're looking at it from a Kobe fan point of view, you're like, all right, oh man, I wanted Kobe to keep that 81. Hey, someone passed. It happens. But look, hey, Gregor, what is up? What is up? But look, it honestly should not be a back and forth between the two because where is this actually going? Of all the things we could be talking about in the sports world, is this really it? We could find way better conversations to have, such as how the significance of Bam Adebayo's performance itself. We could talk about March Madness, talk about NFL free agency, NBA free agency, pitch ideas for things we'd like to see as fans, have some fun discussions. But we should not be turning this into a debate trying to diminish the accomplishment. But enough with that. Let's move on now. Let's actually talk about Bam Adebayo himself. Forget about the whole back and forth fan discussion. Look, now Bam Adebayo made history, 83 points, the second most points by a player in a single game last week for the Miami Heat against the Washington Wizards. Now, granted, does this game, do the 83 points have an asterisk on it last Tuesday? Yes, it did. Bam Adebayo was getting a ridiculous number of free throws. So there was obviously some intentional fouling going on, kept getting him to the line. But either way, he was 24-43 from the field. He had 7 3-pointers made. I mean, Bam Adebayo was unstoppable, and he stepped up in a game where there was no Tyler Hero, no Norman Powell. Granted, it's against the Wizards, but still, for a Miami Heat team that's making a push to make the playoffs, that's gotten better over the past month, and it's become one of the better teams in the East, this is also a great momentum setter too, a great confidence booster. I mean, yeah, it may not seem like much, but sometimes what happens is for teams, and this goes in any sport, is you get a few easy games on the schedule, you win those games handily, it can get the players' confidence going. And once the confidence gets going, that can really help improve the team's performance as a whole. I'll even look at to switch to sports for just a second, Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL, right? That 2017 season, I remember early on in the season, they did have some easier games on the schedule, such as the Denver Broncos, Chicago Bears, San Francisco 49ers. And those were easy games at the time, but those blowout wins the Eagles had helped build momentum for the later portion of the season when they had to go against tougher teams like the Rams. When they made it to the playoffs, had to play the Falcons and the Vikings to get to Super Bowl 52, and then had to play the evil empire, New England Patriots, in Super Bowl 52. Some of those earlier games that season, like those easy games against teams like the Bears, that actually helped them out greatly come playoff time. So sometimes for a team like the Miami Heat, a game like this against the Washington Wizards, where Bam Adebayo balls out of his mind, that can also help both player and team morale going forward as you make it toward the playoffs. So sometimes those games that may seem easy, people like to say, oh, big deal, you'd be an easy team. But sometimes that can really help you out momentum-wise. Or like, see, the New England Patriots, perfect example. Just last season in football, all those easy, they had a softer schedule, but that helped them out. Momentum and confidence-wise, they got better as the season went along and eventually made a push to Super Bowl 60. So, newsflash, folks, sometimes that can work in your favor. So before you come on here talking that crap about, oh, well, yeah, so that, and Bam Adebayo, look, 83 points is incredible no matter what. He had a great performance and will ever be in the history book. So congratulations, Bam Adebayo, a young man who's been the key component of the Miami Heat team going from really from like the late 2010s forward, because he's been there the entire time. You've had throughout his career, he's had, a few all-star nods. He's played in 2 finals. He's drastically improved as his career went along. 2019, 2020, the bubble year is his first breakout year, playing behind Jimmy Butler. And since then, he's consistently been one of the better centers in the league, and now has a historic feat on his resume. So you know what? That's great for Bam Adebayo. So congratulations to the young man on scoring 83 points, which, like I said, is impressive no matter what. So Bam Adebayo, congratulations. Enjoy this moment. Don't get caught up in any debate about you and Kobe. Just enjoy this great accomplishment, and congratulations, young man. So with that being said, now we're going to switch gears. Well, we're still on the subject of basketball. Now it's time to talk about some of the players of the week and the teams of the week from last week, March 10th, episode 50 to right now. So we're going to talk about some of the players of the week. Now, first I'm going to start off by listing the NBA players of the week, let you know how I feel about that. Now, Eastern Conference player of the week, we already know who that is. We just talked about that. It was this guy right here, Bam Adebayo. Hey, 2-1 team record, historic feat. They still won more games than they lost. Now out west, you have the Lakers went 3-0 during that stretch. You had Luka Doncic averaging about 37 a game, 11 assists, and we'll estimate to 11 rebounds per game. All right. Yeah, I can respect that. Luka Doncic, I mean, hey, their team won all the games during that stretch, and Luka was averaging close to 40 a game. That's incredible right there, especially in a week where you won all your games. That's impressive. That was absolutely incredible performance there by one Luka Doncic. So I got to agree with that. Luka Doncic, incredible week. He's going out there. He's not letting what's going on in his personal life affect him. He's just out there playing ball. He's probably using his motivation. And for those of you that wonder, his baby mama took the kids back home overseas. But obviously that's not affecting Luka's play. If anything, it's probably motivating him to go out there and play better. He's probably bringing some of that frustration from his personal life onto the court and balling out. But hey, incredible week though from Luka. And I'll say this, as far as Luka goes, this is the type of weeks we were expecting more frequently when we saw that he was coming into the season ripped, because we remember during the offseason, he started to work on his fitness. He started to lose weight and get in shape. And now we're seeing Luka Doncic. This week was the week we really saw what we thought would be the case right during the offseason. And hey, he's really out there. Hey, he went out there this week, had an incredible week, but he's really been incredible all season, but it doesn't stand out as much because he's in that loaded Western Conference. You got SGA looking like a double MVP, Wemby and the Spurs really balling out. You got a lot of teams in the mix, so outside of like the truly most dominant, no one else really stands out. It's hard to stand out, or I shouldn't say that. A lot of players don't necessarily, a lot of players that are playing good in the West get slept on metaphorically because it's a loaded conference. The attention's going mainly to the Spurs and Thunder, like last week where we talked about the Spurs and Thunder conference finals prediction last week. That was the main talking point because they're the two best teams out West. But The only thing with that, though, the con is with so many good teams in the West, it's a lot of players and teams that are doing really good may not always get the props they deserve because there's a lot more competition. Whereas if you're balling in the East like the Celtics, it's easier to stand out. But any note, man. So congratulations. I would have to agree with that one right there because Luka, he really played incredible. And I feel it's only fair that I come on here and give him props for an amazing week because obviously Bam Adebayo is going to get the shine for that incredible 81-point performance. But I feel like it would be a bit unfair to the other players such as Luka Doncic, who's playing well as well. So that's that right there. So right now, we're going to switch gears in just a minute. Go over some of the teams of the week. Go over some of the winners and loot. So we're going to go over some of the winners and losers. So give me 1 second. Let's see. Because I'm looking for, what was the team records over the week? Give me 1 second, folks. But yeah, we talked about some of the players of the week right there. And let's see. Oh, yeah, we got some of the games of the week. What games of the night? I'll get to predictions later. So let's see. Going to take a look over the last week. We saw over the last week that we had the Lakers. They beat the Rockets yesterday as well. So let's see. I'm looking right now, kind of get an idea. Although I will say this while we're still on that subject, I'll say who's gotten cold are the Detroit Pistons. What happened to the Pistons, man? Seriously. I mean, I know they're still the number 1 seed, but they've been losing a lot of games. They probably lately, and that does cause some concerns for momentum heading into the playoffs because, they've beaten teams like the Nets, the Sixers, and the Grizzlies, but against other good teams like the Raptors on Sunday, they lost that. They lost to the Heat a few weeks ago. They even got upset by the Nets back on the 7th, so Pistons have dropped a few lately, and despite the fact that they're in first, there are some questions about this team long-term going forward because, the Pistons have taken a few questionable L's as well, despite still being in first place in the Eastern Conference. That's questionable. But if you're looking for teams that have gotten hot, obviously the Miami Heat and the Atlanta Hawks, because now the Hawks are the 7th seed as of now. Or wait, they're the 8th seed, I think. Or the 8th or 7th seed. They've gotten hot. So I would have to consider some honorable mentions for best teams of the week. The Atlanta Hawks, who keep finding ways to win games. They're building around Jalen Johnson, and they're building momentum going forward. Obviously, the Miami Heat as well as the historic feat by Adebayo. They're still winning games, and they're still building momentum for the playoffs. So those are some teams I would put into consideration for some of the best teams of the week. But I really say Eastern Conference-wise for the best teams of the week, I would lean toward the Boston Celtics as a potential team. I know they lost to the OK. Oh, no, I don't know. The Celtics, though, I would lean for teams of the week. Well, out west, I would still have to go with the Thunder because they're just absolute. I would say team of the week out west. Let's see, Thunder contenders, but we're going to look at 1 second. I want to look at the full schedule from last week, before I decide who I truly think is the best team. I mean, the Celtics, I'm not going to say that because they did lose to the Thunder and Spurs in close games, but they still lost those games. So there's some question marks there. I'm thinking either go For the Western Conference Team of the Week, I'm actually going to go with the Los Angeles Lakers. They had a really good week over the past week, even winning some tough games. Last week on Tuesday, they beat the T-Wolves, 120-106, which was pretty impressive. They turned around and beat the Nuggets in a tough game in overtime by 2 points. And they top it off. Yesterday, they beat the Houston Rockets, a team that had their number on Christmas Day back a few months ago. So I'm going to have to go with the Lakers as the team of the week for last week because they actually had some really good wins last week against, mind you, other teams in playoff contention. And if they keep this momentum going this week, next week, going forward, Lakers could possibly move higher in the standings come playoff time. So I'll have to give some nods to the Lakers to give them the Western Conference Team of the Week. Some honorable mentions, of course, you got the San Antonio Spurs who continue dominating per usual, but I give the nods to the Lakers because they did have a tougher schedule as a whole last week, and they found ways to win those games. So I'm giving them that team of the week right there. Like I said, beating teams like the Nuggets and the Rockets and the T-Wolves who are all in the playoff mix. Good work by the Lakers there. You see Luka Doncic carry the team efficiently, and it was a great week for them. Of course, Spurs and Thunder, those are the obvious choices for potential team of the week. But here's a dark horse team that actually had a pretty good week. The Clippers, the Clippers did have a win over the T-Wolves, but if you're looking for cold team of the week, it was actually the T-Wolves, man. They were kind of iffy. They lost to the Clippers, the Thunder, and the Lakers. That's not great momentum-wise, seeding-wise for the T-Wolves. Now, I'm not going to be too hard on them because we know come playoff time, usually they save their best. That's when Anthony Edwards goes off, and the T-Wolves will have a surprising series win or two. So I'm not going to necessarily hold that against them, but in terms of best and worst teams of the week, it's damning for the T-Wolves because you're in a race with a lot of teams for the most favorable first-round matchup possible, and losing some of those games to the Clippers who, alert, they're in the play-in tournament as of now. That's not good momentum-wise. So I'll have to consider them a bit cold. Now, for the Eastern Conference cold teams, I got to say the Pistons, man, they just haven't been able to close those big games, man. They're still beating teams like the Nets and Grizzlies, but when they step up, they're struggling to win. And this has been going on, and I'm saying that based on this is results throughout the month, though. Throughout the month of March, Detroit Pistons have been losing those games, the tough teams. So I got to consider that continuing trend and knock against them. I wasn't really that impressed. But out east, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Hawks as the team of the week in the East. Go with the Miami Heat second because here's the thing. The Hawks, yes, you can say they have an easier schedule, but here's what they're doing. They're winning games, and they're building momentum going forward. And as of today, they're up to 37-31 with their continued winning streak. So I'll go with the Atlanta Hawks because they were undefeated last week and continue to build momentum for the playoffs. So for Eastern Conference Team of the Week, I got to give nods to Atlanta, man. They've gotten hot at the right time of year, and if they land the right first-round matchup, there could possibly be an opening round upset with the Hawks, either against a team like maybe the Pistons or the Knicks or the Celtics, depending on where the Hawks land in the final seedings. So I'm putting it out there now. Upset alert. The Atlanta Hawks are probably the most likely team in the East to pull off a first-round best-of-7 series upset. So I got to give them nods for team of the week. I also got to give the Raptors some credit, too. Like I said, they've done pretty solid. But the Boston Celtics, they did lose a few games, though. But I got to give nods to the Orlando Magic. They're up to the number 5 seed now, and they're getting hot now. They did beat the Heat. They dismantled the Wizards, and they even beat the Cavs, too. So I don't know, the Orlando Magic, excuse me, they're kind of a sleeper team in the East too. So I got to give them nods too as a good team throughout the weekend in the Eastern Conference. So there's some of my teams right there I'm giving nods to as the best teams of the week. And real quickly before we move on, I'm going to show you guys the standings of where it stands right now, so you guys get a better idea of what I'm saying. So let's take a look at Eastern and Western Conference standings real quickly. Starting off with the Eastern Conference standings. So as of today, St. Patrick's Day, thus the green. Eastern Conference, you got Pistons, 1 still, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. Celtics are 7-3 in their last 10. And they're only a few games back. Knicks are 7-3 as the 3 seed. Cavs are 4 seed, but they've gone 5-5. Magic have gotten hot lately. They've won 7 of their last 10, and they're sitting at 5. The Raptors are on a 2-game winning streak at 6, and yet the Heat at 7, Hawks at 8. I mean, I wouldn't honestly be surprised considering how close it is, because Raptors and Heat are tied for wins, but the Raptors got the edge at the moment because they got 29 losses to 30 by the Heat. So at the moment they have the edge, but the Heat and Raptors have been better momentum-wise. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually the Raptors fell to the 8th seed just by how well the Miami Heat and Atlanta Hawks have been doing. So don't be surprised there if that's what ends up happening. Then you got 8. The Sixers have fallen to the 9th seed. Hornets are at 10. And they've turned it around from looking like they were going to be a tank race, but still not that great. Then you got Bucks, Bulls, Nets, Wizards, Pacers in the race for the most favorable lottery pick in the East. And then West, you still got the Thunder and Spurs dominating. And the Lakers, I just said it, the Lakers keep winning. They can get a favorable spot in the playoffs, and they get 1-6 straight. They're now the number 3 seed. Then you got the Rockets sit at 4, Nuggets 5, T-Wolves 6, Suns are at 7, Clippers 8, Warriors, Blazers at 9, but 9 and 10, which I think they have the least odds as of right now. Then it's Grizzlies, Pelicans, Mavericks, Jazz, and Kings in the tank race. So that's the standings as of today for the NBA. So what we've seen there, we've seen Celtics are heating up. We've seen the Hawks and Heat are getting hot, as well as the Magic in the East. And then out West, we've seen the Lakers, with behind Luka's incredible play over the past couple of weeks, have moved up to the number 3 seed. So it's going to be interesting to see the race, see who gets those top seeds or not as we go later in the season. But before we move on, we're going to take a real quick break, step aside for 1 second, be right back. I'll pull up my own little fun March Madness bracket, then be right back. So then I'll do that, be right back. We'll talk about March Madness, then we'll talk about NFL free agency a little bit, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, folks. I'm back, and all right, we're back right now. We're going to do our March Madness bracket fill out. So, and then here we go. And for those of you guys want this right here is the link I put out there. This is from a video I did last year. It's a skit of casual fans during March Madness. I'm about to do my own March Madness bracket, so that'll probably be me on this bracket right here. AKA the character I did in this skit from last year. And we got some news from Gregor that Hollywood Brown has signed with the Eagles, aka Marquise Brown, which I will get to that more in a minute because I'm going to talk NFL free agency right after we go through March Madness. So I'll finish up this March Madness little mini bracket for fun, and then I'll get to the news of Hollywood Brown. And that's not the only news we got from wide receiver. We got some news of a big trade involving the Dolphins and Broncos just before we went on the air. So we'll have that to talk about as well, folks. So for the football news, stay tuned. We will get to that after I do this March Madness bracket. So I'm going into this with the casual fan perspective, just like the character I did in this skit. So let's do this, folks. So here we go. We're going to go March Madness tournament. Let's do this. We start off with the East. We got the Sweet 16 for the East, Sweet 16 for the West. Let's do it. You got Siena and Duke. Like Siena, Ohio State, TCU. Northern Iowa. St. John's over North Iowa. Yeah, Ohio State, TCU, maybe that's. I'm going to go an upset here, say something unexpected happens. Then you got we'll go Kansas, South Florida, Louisville. And you got Michigan State. I'll go in and we'll go, let's see, UCLA, UCF. Let's just go with the upset here and go UCF. Then UConn to defeat Foreman. Then we got the South. Sweet 16, you got Florida and Lehigh. Florida, Clemson and Iowa. Clemson, Vanderbilt, McNeese. I'm going to do some random upset picks just to make this a little more realistic too. So, but I will go Vanderbilt here, Troy, Nebraska. North Carolina, VCU. Carolina. I'll go upset here, Texas A&M. And then Houston. Now we're going to switch to the West. So the West, we got Arizona, Long Island. Give me Arizona. Villanova, Utah State. I'll go Villanova, then Wisconsin, Highport, Wisconsin. Arkansas, Hawaii. Give me Arkansas. BYU, Texas, NC State. So we got the Hurricanes and Missouri Tigers. We'll go. And then I'll go, all right. Then from there, we'll kind of go normal as expected. Now, Midwest. Mitch, you're going to love me for this. Michigan, Georgia, St. Louis. Give me Georgia, Texas Tech, Archon, Texas Tech, Alabama. I mean, from here, I did a few upsets earlier to be a little bit realistic, but I'm still going to go mostly straightforward, like Kentucky, Santa Clara. There could be that's a potential. I'll go Kentucky, but there is potential for an upset there. So here we go. Now we're to the second round. Here we go. We're at Duke, Ohio State. Give me Duke. St. John's in Kansas. I'm going to go with St. John's in that one. Louisville, Michigan State. Michigan State. UCF, UConn. Give me UConn. Arizona, Villanova. I'll take. Oh, wait. What was that again? Let me see that. Oh, here's the matchup analyst. Well, this could actually be. Oh, this could be fun. Let's see. True shooting percentage, net ranking, seed. That doesn't tell the full story here. So let me see what the overview gives me. Okay, it does give you the record, but what else? It's the conference record. Okay. Overall winnings. Let's see. Let's go for Arizona team. March Madness came early for Big 12 champions Arizona for Jason Bradley's buzzer beater shot to beat Iowa State. In the conference semifinals, Arizona returned the following night, holding off Houston in the title game to secure an automatic bid and number 1 seed. Arizona is a favorite to win the tournament, and for good reason. The Wildcats are one of the most prolific offenses, with all 5 starters averaging double digits and having one of the best rebounding. Been a few years. Villanova's back in the tournament for the first time. Final Four run in 2022. Despite an upset loss to Georgetown, the Big East quarterfinals, the Wildcats are a battle-tested team ready to make some noise. Okay, so that's not really much of a summary now, is it? That's just a lot of babble to me. So I'm not even going to really get into that. All right, so I'll do Arizona. And if you guys want, I could maybe do multiple goes of these brackets just for fun. If you guys want me to, let me know. I could do multiple brackets. You got Wisconsin, Arkansas. Now, I'll go with Wisconsin because, Calca, what's his name again? Because Arkansas's coach is the former Kentucky coach who always laid an egg in big March Madness games. John Calipari. I'm probably mispronouncing his last name, but you know which coach I'm talking about. So I will take Wisconsin in that one because Arkansas's coach does have a habit of laying an egg in big March Madness games. So from his history with Kentucky. So I'll go with with Arkansas to fall short. Purdue versus Missouri. I'm going to go with an upset and take Missouri just for giggles because sometimes you got to take those upsets. Duke at St. John's. Give me Duke. And UConn, Michigan State. I'm going to take Michigan State versus Duke. I'm probably going to do another go at this just for fun. So if you guys want, I'll do that then. Then give me Arizona to beat Wisconsin. Gonzaga to beat Missouri. Now, here we go. So I'll go for this one. I'll go Duke, Gonzaga. Wait. We still got the other side. Michigan, Georgia. Michigan to beat Georgia. Alabama. I'll take Texas Tech over Alabama. Now we're switching sides. Florida over Clemson. Vanderbilt over North Carolina, Illinois. I'll take Illinois and Houston. Now go with Houston to beat Illinois. Florida over Vanderbilt. Now I said I took, so now we got Florida, Houston. I'll go with Houston. So we're going to go, actually scratch that. I'll go Florida and Duke to the Final Four on one side. On the opposite side, go Michigan over Texas Tech. Kentucky, Iowa State, Tennessee, Virginia. Take Virginia and Kentucky. So it'll be Michigan versus Kentucky. So now we're down. So Michigan versus Kentucky winner. So now it plays Gonzaga. So I'll take Michigan versus Gonzaga, which is the game that a lot of casual. Now these look more like the matchups that like the TV heads want. This would probably be their best for rating. Thank you, Greg. John Calipari. Yep, because that's exactly what I was referring to. You guys know Calipari has that habit, especially during his 10 years at Kentucky, which led to his departure, of not performing well. So we'll go Duke, Florida. And then Michigan, Gonzaga. So we got championship game, Lucas Oil Stadium. It's going to be Florida versus Gonzaga. So in this area, we'll take – let's just go randomly. All right, let's just say – here, let's just go with that right there. Can I I want to see if I can download this. I'm thinking about maybe doing one more bracket. Well, you know what? So, you know what? There's my March. So I got Florida winning it in this one. Let's see. I'm going to try to create a new group right there. So I got one bracket right there. I'm going to create a new bracket. Let's see how that one goes. Let's just do this for fun. I want to create an individual one. Can I do that again? Let's see if I can create. I'm going to create a new entry. All right, let's do a new entry just for fun. Kind of like we do with the mock draft. So we'll just kind of Duke. Say Duke and Ohio State this time. St. John's. Kansas. We'll go with South Florida just for the upset to mix it up a bit. UCF, UCLA. We'll go UCLA and then UConn. This one's Florida, probably. Iowa, Clemson. We'll go with the upset in Iowa. Vanderbilt, McNeese. Vanderbilt. Illinois, St. Mary's. I'll go with St. Mary's here and then Houston. So we're doing a few changes from the last bracket I did just to do it a little differently this time. So Kentucky, Santa Clara. We'll go with Santa Clara in the upset. Virginia. Tennessee. Wait. Hold on. But Tennessee. I want to kind of breeze through this one. Then we'll get to eventually the free agency talk about Hollywood Brown, the trade between the Broncos and Dolphins that happened today. Talk about who's hot and who's not. And then we got Georgia there, Michigan, yeah. Queens and Purdue. Go with Miami this time. Gonzaga, we'll go with the upset in this one. Arkansas, all right, they'll win the first round. So Villanova, go with the upset with Utah State, and then Arizona. So boom, Arizona. Let's hype in the drama. Say Coach does get past Wisconsin this time, and we'll lay an egg a little bit later on. Miami, Purdue. Let's go with the upset here. Go with the Hurricanes. There, go against Gonzaga. Michigan, Georgia. Let's go an upset with Georgia. Sorry, Mitch. Come on, to be fair, upsets do happen, and I did give Michigan some leadway the previous time. Virginia will go Tennessee. So, all right, now we're moving right along. Tennessee, Iowa State. We'll go with Tennessee in the Georgia now. Go with Gonzaga over the Hurricanes. Their little miracle run comes to an end. And yeah, this time Coach gets a little more redeemable March Madness exit. So we go Duke, St. John's, and Kansas. We'll go with Kansas this time. I had them getting upset last time. I have them go a little bit further this time. UCLA, UConn. All right, UConn, we'll say they go a little further this time. Florida beats Iowa. Built Nebraska. Florida plays Nebraska. Illinois beats North Carolina. St. Mary's in Houston. Let's go with the upset there. Now, this bracket, we got Arizona versus Gonzaga. I'll go with Gonzaga I'll go Gonzaga in this one. Georgia and Tennessee. Say Georgia's little nice miracle run continues in this scenario. Illinois, St. Mary's. Illinois keeps it going. And then Florida, Nebraska. Florida beats Nebraska. UConn, Michigan State. We're going to give the casual fans their preferred matchup of Duke versus UConn here. That would be nice for ratings. I'm sure some of you would love to see that. So that would be a fun one right there. That's right there. That's my previous bracket right there. So this is my previous bracket. So I got it on a separate tab. So we'll compare and contrast when I'm done with this, my two brackets. So now here we go. You have Florida and Illinois. Go with Florida in this one. Duke and UConn, the preferred ratings juggernaut matchup goes in favor of Duke. So now it's Duke, Florida, Gonzaga, Georgia. So in this scenario, we'll switch it up. We'll go Duke and Georgia. And Duke ends up winning it all this time around. So we'll say they win off a buzzer beater, 77-76. So there we got. So there's our two brackets right there. So first bracket, we got Florida winning. Second bracket, we have Duke, which probably means now neither team will win. But hey, on a serious note, though, hey, remember, this is just for fun. Let's not take this thing seriously. Let's just have some fun with it. So let's take a look. This was the most recent tab I did. I'm actually, what I'm going to do, I'm writing down a note real quickly on, because I'm going to turn this into a YouTube short. So I'm writing down a note on the time in the video so I can make this easier to edit for myself. So I put a note about the 59-minute mark. So I'll just share the bracket with you guys real quick. Then we'll move on to the fun part. Move on to the NFL. So in this scenario, you guys can check it out. Here we go. First round, you guys can see right there, the first round. We do get Iowa upset over Clemson. And we do get, and then Iowa upset over Clemson in the first. Out west, we're upset Utah State over Villanova. And Georgia, and then that's our Santa Clara over Kentucky. Then the second round, you get Duke, Ohio State, Kansas, St. John's, Michigan State, UConn, Florida, Nebraska. St. Mary's gets the upset over Houston in the second round on the Western second round bracket. Miami, the Hurricanes beating Purdue will be the upset there. Georgia is going to make a miracle run all the way to the finals, but the Cinderella run ends against Duke in this one. And the first one I did, here was the first one we had. See some similar matchups in the first couple rounds. So we had UCF beat UCLA. That was an upset in the original bracket I did. We also had, I think there was another Texas A&M beat St. Mary's. That was the upset there. But then Houston ends their run in the second round. Vanderbilt makes a surprise run to the Sweet 16. And then out west, you get Missouri beating the Hurricanes would be the upset there in the opening bracket. And then the opening round, you also had you got Wisconsin makes a bit of a surprise run to the Sweet 16. So does Missouri. So there was a few upsets there. Then ultimately we get through it. You get to the final 8. Duke appears through Michigan State. Florida beats Houston. East, Gonzaga upsets Arizona. And then Michigan beats Kentucky. But then Gonzaga upsets Michigan. And Florida beats Duke. So then Florida does win against Gonzaga. So those are the two. So those are the two right there. So that was that right there. But moving right along now, we've done some fun with my own March Madness bracket fill out. And now we're going to move right along. We're going to talk a little bit about NFL free agency because it's still going, folks. Yes, we got a lot more basketball content, but NFL free agency is still going. We kicked this off today. We've had 2 trades now. We had a big trade today. Actually, we had the Miami Dolphins and Denver Broncos got involved in a big trade. And some of you probably know it, but for those that don't know yet, in this scenario, we had Jalen Waddle going from the Miami Dolphins to the Denver Broncos. So here's the trade details, full trade details. So, a few hours ago, Dolphins traded star receiver Jalen Waddle to the Broncos for a package of 2026 draft picks, including a first-round selection. So the Broncos got Waddle, fourth-round pick this year, while the Dolphins received a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and a fourth-round pick. So obviously the Dolphins, they're going full-blown rebuild here. They're looking for extra picks to help rebuild for the future. And I'll say this now, for the Broncos, this is a big move right here to go get a Jalen Waddle, who is one of the best number 2 receivers in the NFL. And this will certainly help add to their offense for starts. So the Broncos, they're going to get a big upgrade right there. And then on the flip side, you got the Dolphins. They're looking for extra picks, which they need, because so far throughout free agency, outside of signing Malik Willis, the Dolphins have not made any big moves, and they haven't really done anything spectacular to actually build a team around Malik Willis on the offensive side of the ball. Now, if the Dolphins are going to do anything in this case, you would want to believe that they're going out and they're trying to get somewhat extra piece, some offensive line, gets a few receivers through the draft to develop, to build a team around Malik Willis. Because now, but you've already lost your top 2 receivers. You let Hill go, which is understandable. But then also, you're letting Jalen Waddle walk to the Broncos in a trade. So for the Dolphins, hopefully for them, they got some big plans on offense, or they have someone who they feel would fit the mold perfectly. Unless they're doing some like Pittsburgh Steelers, drafting receivers in the mid-rounds who pan out on the field, you better hope that's the case, because for the Dolphins, I don't know, man, because this is a weird one right here. Because so far you throw out, who have you got? You've got Atwell and Tolbert, who are pretty much, you've got Atwell, who was mostly a role player on the Rams, so, and on a team, mind you, who had Cooper Kupp pass through, Devontae Adams pass through, Puka Nacua as the number 1 weapon in that offense, is bringing in a guy like Atwell, unless they're going to utilize him in a similar role to the Rams offense, is he really going to move the needle in terms of building a potential championship level team? I don't know about that one. That's an interesting question that I got to wonder, and I just don't know if that's really going to be. I mean, unless you're bringing those guys in to be role players. Now, in the case of Tolbert, you're bringing a guy who was a red zone threat for the Cowboys the last couple seasons, who could be a decent weapon in short yardage situations. But now with Waddle and Hill gone, with your current roster, who's your top receiver for the Miami Dolphins? That's a question that they're going to have to answer. They're going to have to find a legit answer to, either through the draft or they'll have to go and try to pull off a move in free agency to get someone else, or possibly a combination of the two. So that's something that the Dolphins still got to answer, though, too. I mean, hopefully, for their sake, they're using their picks to invest, because the one thing we learned about Malik Willis, their quarterback they got last week, is you actually need to build a team around him. You saw the difference between Tennessee Malik Willis and Green Bay Malik Willis. With better team around him, he excelled more in Green Bay. So the Dolphins got to build a better team offensively. They got to focus on the line, got to get receivers, especially now, because your top 2 receivers from the Mike McDaniel era are gone. So the Dolphins' sake, they got to find somebody. I understand Jeff Hafley's a defensive-minded coach, former Packers D coordinator, but you got to get some weapons on offense too. Now for the Broncos, obviously they're doing that. They're going to get Jalen Waddle to add to that offense. You got J.K. Dobbins is back. He knows the system. You got Bo Nix is there. You go get Jalen Waddle, which that's a good move for a Bo Nix, because here's a guy who wasn't individual-wise, he was like a light bulb. There were some games that the Broncos won where he didn't really play that great, but they found ways to win. Then there were some games where Bo Nix played really good. So now you're bringing in a Jalen Waddle. You're hoping that'll help eliminate those cold stretches that he had last year during certain games. So that's a good upgrade at receiver. You give Bo Nix a weapon to throw the ball to that you're hoping helps with his individual performances, that can reduce and limit the Colts games he has and keep him balling throughout the season. So for the Broncos, man, that could potentially be a good move for them. But for the Dolphins, it's just a lot of question marks. It's too early to say whether they'll benefit or not from this. We'll tell over time. We'll see throughout the draft, and we will see as time goes along. But that's not the only move that happened today. My Philadelphia Eagles apparently made a new shout out to Gregor for breaking it. He broke it in the comments. Broke it just as I was about to start discussing March Madness. He broke it. So now let's talk about it. So here it was. Hollywood Brown signed with the Eagles. Thanks to Gregor for breaking it. Now it's time to talk about it. So now Hollywood Brown, a.k.a. Marquise Brown, has now joined the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's on a 1-year prove-it deal. So, and this is and this could be a potentially good move for them because you're talking about a guy like Marquise Brown who maybe doesn't have he's not the same on-the-field player that his cousin is, but he's still more serviceable off the field and in the locker room than Antonio was. So, but this is a guy, Marquise Brown, who's still a solid weapon even in Kansas City last year. He still had 587 yards, 5 touchdowns. So it's not real. He's been 21st in the NFL. Yeah, so, okay. He was 21st in yards. He's not that over like the past couple of years, so he's not that great, but he's still a decent receiver and can be used as a number 2 or 3 option in the right situation. So this is kind of one of those experimental signings, see how it works out. And, you know, especially now that you're down Jahan Dotson, you got to see him. Now everyone's going to tie this into the A.J. Brown talks. Just stop it, all right? There's no proof that A.J. Brown's going anywhere. It's only speculation, all right? And some people are saying that Hollywood are trying to speculate how this is going to impact an A.J. Brown trade. That's what I see the latest, some of the articles are pushing. It's just like, you know, I don't care. Some people just can't help themselves. They got to make everything. They think that making every move connected to another star on the team is going to get them more clicks. They're just so, you know, they're thirsty for clicks, basically. But there's no guarantee. I don't see how A.J. Brown would tie into this right here. First off, it's a 1-year deal. And secondly, we're talking about Marquise Brown is not the same level receiver that A.J. Brown is. So anyone foolish enough to think that he's coming in to be a replacement, don't even get me started. And secondly, there's no real indication that an A.J. trade's going to happen. First, he's going to go to the Broncos. Well, guess what? That got put to an end today. Broncos went for a different receiver. They went for Jalen Waddle, so put an end to that discussion. Oh, he could go to the Patriots or the Rams. All right, first off, it's all speculation. And what we've seen from A.J. Brown on social media, he's still committed to being a team player. He's still, I know on his Instagram, he was posting thank you notes to Reed Blankenship, Nakobe Dean and company. He welcomed Dallas Goedert back on his IG. So based off Antonio Brown's own personal social media pages, signs indicating he's staying in Philly, at least for now, and is at least still part of the team. Welcome guys like Goddard back, saying farewell to teammates that he had played with for a while, like Blankenship and Dean, as they move on to their new ventures. Like, come on. Let's not even get started on that. Let's talk about Marquise Brown. Solid receiver, yes. Number one option, no. But when you look at the roster, the way it's constructed, between A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert coming back, who Dallas Goedert's usually solid for blocking, and we'll get you those occasional big plays. Obviously, Marquise Brown's really just here to be a role player. He's here to be a number 3 option, a guy that you could occasionally insert in the offense, may get a few open passes, might be able to find a hole in coverage when you got him, AJ, and Devontae lined up. If you ever go a 3 receiver set, assuming that AJ Brown stays, that's a potential opening for Hollywood Brown to maybe make some catches and to make some plays in the offense. So he's a guy that, when utilized right, could help out. So I feel it's a solid replacement for the number 3 option. And to be fair, Hollywood Brown does have a slightly higher ceiling than Jahan Dotson. So, I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but at least it's a weapon in the passing game. It's not going to hurt to have a solid number 3 receiver. So, hey, Hollywood Brown, yeah, it's a nice option to have in the passing game. So it's not going to hurt. This could help. So this could be a solid move. But the real question the Eagles got to address is the secondary. Yes, we did go and get a 1-year prove-it deal for a former, with one of the Seahawks defensive backs. That's nice. So we got that. But we still got to focus on safety. We got Reek Woolen, but what are we doing to fill that void at linebacker and edge with Nakobe Dean going to the Raiders and Jalen Phillips to the Panthers, respectively? That's the next question. I'd focus more on the defensive side, particularly the edge rushers in the secondary, if we're the Eagles. So while this is a nice pickup, it's not the most important need. But I think the Eagles, I got a gut feeling they're waiting for the draft, because they've looked at their track record with drafting since 2021. Howie Roseman's like, look, we've gotten some of our best talent over the course of the decade throughout the draft. We got Devontae Smith through the draft. We waited till draft day to get A.J. Brown from the Titans. We got the better of that deal. We got Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter through the draft. We got Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean through the draft. You got Jalex Hunt, who showed some potential. You got Jahad Campbell, who showed some potential through the draft. So I think that's what Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles are looking at. They're looking at filling those missing pieces through the draft. As far as the Eagles go. So, but we do have some other big news to talk about that has happened since. The biggest one was the Max Crosby drama. So we came on here last week on episode 50, talked about Max Crosby, and then right afterward, as I was live with Agent Warrior X on episode 5, Everything on the Table, the news broke that the Raiders got Max Crosby back because the Ravens backed out of him using Max Crosby in the trade, which means that the draft picks the Ravens gave up for Max Crosby are still theirs. But, they also got Max Crosby back, and they still got the picks from the Ravens, so that's pretty crazy. And here was our reaction live last week to that.
Wait, what? The Ravens just backed out of the Max Crosby trade.
Really?
The Ravens just backed out of the Max Crosby trade.
Hold on. I'm about to look.
I just saw it on ESPN. I just saw it on my ESPN notification.
Yeah, I just looked it up right now on Google, and it's just coming in. They nixed the trade.
So, oh my God. So I'm guessing Max Crosby is coming back to the Ravens? To the Raiders?
Yeah, that was our initial reaction. And yeah, you could see the surprise by my Everything on the Table co-host, Agent Warrior X. And Wow. Talk about a terrible predicament for the Ravens. That was the ultimate losers of free agency so far. Because you lost Tyler Lindenbaum to the Raiders. You gave up draft picks for Max Crosby, only for Crosby's physical to come back bad, and the means he's not going to be part of the Ravens. And the Raiders still had the picks they got from the initial trade. The Raiders still got your picks, Baltimore. But what are you going to do about center? You got Isaiah Likely. A few other players followed John Harbaugh to the Giants. Still got some holes to fill, Baltimore. Now, they did get Trey Hendrickson, which was a nice replacement for Max Crosby. And for Hendrickson, when you look at what's going on with the Ravens currently with their roster, you got who's your center? Who's your backup tight end? That's still some questions for the Ravens to answer. And so for Trey Hendrickson, this could be going, he's going to a defense that at least is some degree better than what we had better than some degree than what you had with the rate you had before in Cincinnati, because that was terrible to Trey Hendrickson. At least he gets to go to a better, any situation's probably better for him. So at least so it's a good pickup for Baltimore with Hendrickson. And now, hey, he gets to go to a better team, at least on the defensive side of the ball than the Bengals. So he at least gets out of that hellhole, gets a fresh start. But the question is, what are the Ravens going to do to fill those voids? So that's a good move right there. Also notable throughout free agency, the Raiders themselves have been a busy team throughout this whole process. They got trades they got the trade from the Ravens. They've also gotten Nakobe Dean, Tyler Lindenbaum. So I give the Raiders credit for this. They've been busy. I don't know how great they're really going to doing, but good news is they're making moves. They're at least getting signed. They got Tyler Lindenbaum, Nakobe Dean, I'm curious how Nakobe Dean's going to adjust to a different role. He's been all right with the Eagles, but he's going to have higher responsibility with the Raiders. He'll probably get more looks. But at the same time, though, now on one hand, the stats will probably go up with more first-team reps, but does that mean that just because the stats increase with more playing time, does that mean he's really going to play better as a whole? What about the times what about the run-stopping plays? Coverage up the middle of the field, covering tight ends. How's that going to excel as a whole? And then you got Quay Walker as well, who's coming from the Packers. This looks like this could be a decent rate, but he does have a missed tackle rate of 4.5. And now he doesn't, which is an upgrade, but it's going to be interesting yet. A lot of guys that on paper look like this could be a good team, but here's the thing. You're going with guys like Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean, Kwity Paye, Tyler Lindenbaum. This looks good on paper, but you got to ask yourself these questions. And they're going for Matt Gay, the kicker. They let Carlson go for Matt Gay. Okay, so they've been busy, but the question you got to ask is with all these different players like Kwity Paye, Nakobe Dean, how do they fit in with the Raiders? They're going from one situation in their respective cases to a new entirely different team, which is going to have a different philosophy. How do they blend in? Because we've seen it before. Players can go from one scheme to another. It's not necessarily the same result. Like the questions are, will Kwity Paye, will Nakobe Dean, will these guys fit in will they fit in with them? We've seen a lot of free agents before go from one place to another on both sides of the ball, like DeMarco Murray going from Dallas to the Eagles. He didn't really fit in with the Eagles offense, and he had a big fall off. Or you see a guy like Byron Maxwell went from the Legion of Boom to the Eagles in 2015. He didn't quite fit in as well with the Eagles as he did the Legion of Boom behind Sherman, Max Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, and those guys. So now that's going to be the key question, though, with the Raiders is will these guys fit in? Now, for the New York Giants, as an Eagles fan, this is something to keep an eye on because some of the Giants pieces are guys like Isaiah Likely, who is coming from Baltimore. We all know who else is coming from Baltimore. It's John Harbaugh. So that'll be easier for guys like that to fit in. Plus, when you get guys, plus for the Giants having these former Ravens players, it helps with the transition to get the newer players adjusted to Harbaugh's coaching style, his schemes, and his philosophies. So that's going to be interesting right there. You got Tremaine Edmonds is another piece coming in, but we got Darnell Mooney from the Falcons. But it's going to be interesting, though, like I said. Again, the question is, can these players from the Giants, you got Patrick Ricard, who was a former player with Harbaugh with the Ravens. But the thing is, these guys can actually help the Giants players. He can get them acclimated playing with Harbaugh, give them some tips on how to adjust to Harbaugh's playing style, and that could help them out in the long term. Whereas with the Raiders, you're starting mostly fresh. So the Giants, again, they've been busy with all these moves, but in both cases, busy doesn't automatically alone make a team better or worse. You still got to go out there on the field, actually play, make something happen. And that's something we'll have to wait and see right here how this works out. But right now, though, so far throughout NFL free agency, I'd say some of the winners in terms of being proactive are the Raiders. They've been proactive, getting future picks, signing some players, trying to help bolster their team. And also you got the Giants. They've been busy, like I said, too. There's a few teams right there have been making moves as far as potential winners go. As far as potential losers go, so far, I would have to say the Dolphins because they got Malik Willis, but what have they done to actually put a team around him? And then I'd go with the Ravens as losers. They lost 3 of their key pieces on offense. Their center, one of their tight ends, and one of their fullbacks, all gone. You're not really sure where it's going from there. It's like, and you lost draft picks to the Raiders. That's not real. It's not good for the future. Now, the 49ers, they're an interesting one. They're going in getting some wide receivers. They got Mike Evans on a short-term deal. They also got Christian Kirk on a short-term deal. These are some potential interesting, and there's some interesting pieces there. We'll see how they fit in. If they help, their experience helps the passing game. I mean, I don't really think that Evans and Kirk are going to be true elite wide receivers, but who knows? Maybe they're hoping to get that wide receiver that replaces a Deebo Samuel, but I don't know. Mike Evans, well, he's been that guy throughout his career, that top guy. He's coming off an injury-riddled year. He's not exactly getting younger. I mean, he might still produce, but I'm not thinking, no, Mike Evans is going to have the same type of Mike Evans season we're used to seeing from him during those years in Tampa Bay. That part I'm still uncertain about. Well, to a certain extent, yes, it will. So, I mean, although at the same, now you got to wonder, are the Raiders going to, oh yeah, I mean, you would think on paper, it's like, oh, we'll just find another trade for Max Crosby. But with him failing a physical, his trade market value, that's going to affect their cap going forward. And not to mention, we don't know if these guys that are coming to the Raiders are actually going to pan out. We don't know how the linebackers are going to fit in. Just because we don't. And remember, Nakobe Dean was never a top linebacker anyway. Sometimes he was considered the weak link of the Eagles' defense in recent years with all that talent there. So going, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a huge upgrade for the Raiders necessarily. And you're locked in with Max Crosby's contract. I mean, yeah, that's going to some extent affect their cap. So for the Raiders, while they've been busy, I don't know if this is automatically going to make them great overnight, because you still got to compete in that division with the Los Angeles Chargers, Denver Broncos, and Kansas City, with Kenneth Walker coming to the team and Patrick Mahomes coming back. That's going to be a tough uphill battle in that AFC West. So I think this might, with Fernando Mendoza, it might take a year or two before you really start seeing team results in terms of them being a better team. And as far as the Eagles go, look, so far I think they're waiting on the draft. And we did have CJ Gardner, here's a big one. CJ Gardner-Johnson to the Bills. I mean, we've seen now CJ Gardner-Johnson, the pro is when you bring him in, he fits in the system. He can help make plays on defense. The con is he's not a good long-term option. Now, for a team like Buffalo, who's just looking to get a little bit better to finally get over the hump, get to and possibly win a Super Bowl, they can take risks on getting guys like DJ Moore or CJ Gardner-Johnson for the short term, because Buffalo's going all in. It's obvious. They're going all in to try to win a Super Bowl. They're in Super Bowl or bust mode now. They finally moved on from Sean McDermott. They promoted Joe Brady, hoping that'll help finally be the piece or one of the pieces that helps them. Now, like we said, with Mr. CJ Gardner-Johnson, CJ Gardner-Johnson is one of, he's still, when he's on, he's one of the best he's one of the best secondary players. He can help this Bills secondary. Now, he's not really the best long-term option, but he could help make some plays and force turnovers in the short term. So that's a good move right there for Buffalo. Go as long as he's able to fit in with the roster, as long as he doesn't get released like he did with Houston or from Baltimore. So I think this is kind of a hit or miss with him joining the Bills. But there's also the red flag of this is his 5th team in 4 years. It's a bit of a concern right there. Because, I mean, technically he was with 3 teams last year. Technically, I mean, let's look. He was technically, I mean, yeah, that's not really the best green flag in the world. So this is also a risky move for the Bills. But for a team that's desperate to get over the hump, they're going to take a chance on it. But ultimately, we're going to have to wait and see what happens and see how this pans out. So those are some of the main news that's been going on throughout free agency over the past week that I feel I wanted to come on here and talk about for a minute. And yeah, that's all we got for right now for episode 51 of the 3-Point Blitz. But so everyone, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's a lot of fun coming on here. So to Grega, anyone else that stopped by, thanks for joining. We'll be back next week with episode 52. We'll be a step closer to the finals in March Madness. And so we'll have some recap there to talk about. We'll see if how well my predictions went. And we'll also talk about more NFL and NBA related news and events come next week. So with that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back at it later tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with everything on the table on the Hardcore Sports Network with me, Agent Warrior X, later tonight. So make sure to tune in tonight. If you can't, have a great rest of your day. Have a fun St. Patrick's Day. If you're going to go out drinking at all, do so responsibly and safely. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in. For your boy Nicky Stees off another episode of the 3-Point Blitz. Peace, and I'll catch y'all later. Or everything on the table.